Hi, in this video I'm going to oil and grease and inspect the Singer 4432 that I bought last September 2024. It's now July 2025 and this domestic heavy-duty sewing machine has done a lot of sewing. It's really been put through its paces. It's sewn a lot of denim. Also a lot of muslin, but denim is a very somewhat hard to sew fabric, especially for a domestic sewing machine. But nonetheless, the Singer Heavy Duty has done quite well, and I've used it a lot for many hours. And up until now, the only oiling or lubrication that I've done is just dropping one drop of oil without taking anything out of without removing the bobbin case. So in this video, I'll be taking off this end of the sewing machine. I'll also be taking off the top, and I'll also be going underneath, especially under the needle and hook area, and giving it a good oiling, greasing, cleaning if that is what is required. And I will also inspect it just to make sure that it's in good condition. So I'm looking forward to making this video and taking some of the covers off and getting inside the machine and seeing if there is actual dirt or anything that needs to be repaired after 11 months of somewhat intensive sewing. So that's what this video is going to be about. Thanks for stopping in. I hope you enjoy it. First, I'm going to remove the bottom, and in order to do that I have to remove this screw, this screw, this screw, this screw, this screw, and this screw. So I'll get started doing that. And I want you to know that my standard operating procedure with screws is that once I undo them or remove them, I leave them in their original place, whether threading it back in position or taping it in the receptacle to where it threads when it's installed. So that's what you're going to see me doing. And that's a very safe way to not lose screws. There, that has come off, and I have replaced all of the screws in the receptacles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'll set that aside. Next I'll undo these two screws and remove this bottom cover. Cool. Then I'll put those screws in their home spots. For an initial look, it looks quite good down here. There is not really any accumulation of dust or dirt or grunge or anything like that. My job here is going to be to grease this gear. There is another one here. So I want to grease this gear, and then I want to oil all the places where it is steel on steel, like here, here, along here, here, here. And I think by and large those are the oil points to start with. That's what I'm using for grease. And then I have Singer sewing machine oil in this container. So tri-flow grease. I also do have tri-flow oil, but I have the Singer oil right here handy, so I'll use that as well. To apply the grease, I'm going to use Q-tips. And I'm going to use them gently because I don't want to knock the cotton or the fibers off the Q-tip. Let me see what I get off the side of that gear when I rotate the hand wheel. So there is a little bit of fluff. Of course, we always rotate the hand wheel towards ourselves. There's some grease on there. And I'm going to continue to apply more. I'm trying to recall where my other area of grease was going to be. And I'm going to put some there. I think that's about it actually. Most of it's going to be oil now. I'm just trying to put a drop. It's definitely a case of less is more. This right here is a fiber oil retention device, I believe. So I'm going to put a drop like that. I think it's still, like, it's not dry. But while I have it open, I'm going to put some oil on there. And I can spin it. Even with the tip of the oil dispenser. The other place I'm going to put grease is right in there. Right in there like that. And I just put a big smudge in there. Let me see if I can smooth that out a bit. There. Now I'm going to continue with a little more oiling. And my credo is less is more. So there's a spot back there. There's a spot there. I've already done that. Gonna put a bit there. I've already done that. I'll put some on there. I'll put a drop there. That also is a felt, so I'm going to oil that. There's a drop. It's hard to see where I think that is actually quite still fluid. And then I'm going to put a drop of oil in there on that metal and metal rotating part. Down here. In here. Up there. I think I got some there already, so that's probably too much anyway. So I'm thinking that that is all I need for down here. So I'm going to keep that cover off for now, and I'm going to turn the machine back up right again. I do have this utility towel, this utility cloth, to catch the dripping oil for when I set this back up now. The next spot I want to get into is this end here, and that's where the needle bar and all that associated gear is. This is rather exciting because I've never taken, you know, any of the covers off and looked inside of the machine yet. So I am enjoying this. So I put the screw back in its receptacle, and I've set that aside with the other covers as well. There's going to be quite a few places to oil here with the needle bar and its associated parts. No doubt I'll be putting maybe a little bit of grease in here too. I'm not sure yet. We'll take a look. But for now I'm going to start with the metal to metal contacts. I'll get some on the top of that bar. There's a sliding part, there's a sliding part. There's a sliding part. And I'll rotate the hand wheel. There's an interior joint there. There, I'm happy with that for now. Next, I want to remove the top cover, and the way to do that is to lift the handle up, and then there's two screws, one there and one there. There, I think they're untightened. Let's see how I make out with that. There. There's the top off, and the screws are still in their receptacles. Good. So I want to get some in there. A drop there. There is a gear under here that I want to grease. Don't know if you can see it, it's right in there. So that's where I'm going to put a bunch of grease with a Q-tip. There's the grease. There. I think that's sufficient. Well, I can't see much more than that I can oil or grease up there. There's maybe a spot here. And up here. Fair enough. Now I'm going to go back to the hook. I've removed the presser foot and the cover, the bobbin cover, and I'm just using the little screwdriver key to loosen the throat plate screws. I'll remove that throat plate. And I'm going to remove the needle now as well. That throat plate is in pretty good condition. There's no real burrs or needle marks or divot marks or anything. There's certainly no dust or grime or broken threads or anything. So everything's looking good in that part. And I'm going to set the screws back in there and set them aside as well, out of the way. And I did cut some tape, and because those screws are small, I'm just going to get a couple of pieces of tape. And now, if they get knocked inadvertently, they're still going to stay put. Because once they bounce on a hard floor, they ricochet into oblivion. They're never found again. My next issue now is that I want to remove this bobbin case, and I'm going to have to either loosen this here or loosen that there, and I'm going to elect to loosen that there in order to kind of angle the bobbin case out of there, because there's something down there that I want to see. Just like that. You could hear the snap. And again. Now, have I loosened it enough to be able to? I have. That looks in good condition. There's no divots or burrs or anything like that. Now, I had always oiled this hook gear, driving gear, whatever you want to call it, by that hole there. And that would just drop oil down onto here. I guess I do have a little bit of fluff and dust down there, don't I? Let me get a Q-tip with some oil on it. What I use for cleaning, and it's just me, I've never really heard anybody else mention it before, but I use oil. I don't use rubbing alcohol or Windex or some of the other things that I've heard that people use. I use oil because even if I did use Windex or rubbing alcohol, after I'm done using it, I'm going to use oil to lubricate it. So there's some grime there. But considering that it's almost a year's worth of work, now I'll be fair, the first few months the machine did not get heavy use. Between September and December, let's say, the use was somewhat sparse. There, I got a big bunch there. What I'm going to do now is I have a piece of tissue here with a bit of thread on it, so I'll get rid of the thread. And then I'll dampen this tissue with oil. Right there like that. And I'll go in like that. Well, we got a bunch, didn't we? We sure did. There's more down there than meets the eye. There's the oily wet part there. Fair enough, looks like I got it out of there. Now, there's a wick down in there, and I'm not going to try and pull that wick out. I have heard, you know, people taking a needle and pulling it out to check it, but it's a new machine, so I'm just going to drop a drop. That's probably too much, but it'll soak it up. And I'll use a dry part of the Kleenex and mop up any pieces. That's pretty clean. There's maybe a little bit of fluff on there. Whoopsie daisy, let's see. Ooh, I did get some. There's a little bit of a ledge there. I got some more. So I'll put a little bit of oil on the end of this Q-tip. Like that. And I'll go in there and sweep with the Q-tip. I got a little more there. There, that's about it. So even though we got some fluff out of there, it's not an exorbitant amount or a maximum amount. So it gives me an idea of how much fluff has accumulated in almost a year of work. And like I say, since, you know, for the last 7 or 8 months, it's been fairly consistent stitching, sewing. Fair enough. Let me see this bobbin case. I'd like to give it a rub with the Kleenex I had. Well, I don't know what I did with the Kleenex, so I'll use this for a starter. don't really seem to be pulling any dirt or dust or fluff or grunge off, so that's good. Let me put that back in there. There. That one's snugged up. Let me get that long screwdriver. There, that's snug. And that's snug. I think there was another drop maybe. So there, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to replace the throat plate club cover. There, turn it in there with my fingers. They're seated. Now I can take the little screwdriver. That one's snug. And now that one's snug too. Fair enough. Now I'll put the end cover back on again. There. There. Cool. Now I can put the top cover back on. Cool. That's all good and flush. There, they clicked in. The plastic catch tabs, release tabs, they've clicked in. Now it's the bottom's turn to go back on again. So first I have to put this on like that. Cool. Good. Now I can get the bottom on. I think what I have to do is raise this up just a tad so I can get the clips and all that stuff to seat nicely. There's a spot there for a clip there. Tab really. And then there's these two tabs here that I line up. So far, so good. What's going on here? Well, let me put those ones on first then. See if I can get them to take. Indeed, that one's in. That one too. So I got 4 of them in. Now I got to get those middle two in. Nice. There. So it's back together. And now what I want to do is I want to plug it in and see what it sounds like when I run it. I'm not sure if there's a bit of a knock there. Because it always has been a noisy machine anyway. Fair enough. I'm going to leave it just like that. That's good. So it got dusted inside, wiped down on the outside, and it got greased and oiled. I may check the covers again tomorrow just to be sure. There seems to be a bit of a knock there. But anyway, for now we're good. Here I am with another heavy-duty machine. This one is the heavy-duty model 44S. And what I'm talking about here is that when I remove the thread from the machine, I cut the thread up here so that the thread is separated from the spool, and then I pull the thread down so that I'm not pulling any of the thread back through the tension discs and dumping more thread dust and residue on the tension discs. That's the intention anyway. So I'm going to remove the thread from that machine entirely for now, because I want to dust it off and shine it up a little. And what I'm checking is to make sure how the bobbin case is situated and positioned in the bobbin area. My concern with 4432 is that it's got a bit of a knock, and I know Singer heavy duty machines are loud in general, but I'm concerned that there may be something out of position. And to tell you the truth, with the 4432, when I lowered the needle, there was some resistance. It was not able to complete its rotation. So I've got two other machines that I can compare to. I've got this 44S, which I bought new, and then behind that I also have over here a used 4423. And same thing, I'm going to cut the thread up top like that and then pull it through the bottom this way, like that. So I'm going to check the positions of these two bobbin cases on the 4423 and the 44S right here, and find out what my little issue is with the 4432. That one rotates freely. The needle is going down, and there's no click or minor audible knock like there was on the 4423. So I'm going to have to do some more investigating, some more research on the 4432 to find out what needs to be adjusted. But the great thing is, it's a wonderful learning experience. I'm going to rotate the hand wheel, and that's nice and quiet. There's no knock. I can do a full rotation, and that's wonderful. That's perfect. I'll call it perfect. Let's run the machine and listen how nice and smooth and quiet it sounds compared to the 4432. So that's how that sounds. Now I'm going to try the 4423, and then last but not least I'll try the 4432. So here I am with the 4423, and I can rotate the hand wheel freely. There's a bit of a squeak, but nothing that's concerning. Maybe this one should get oiled. I think it should, maybe. But anyway, I'll depress the pedal and see what kind of sound it makes. So there's no knocking, noticeable knocking sound there either. So I'm going to remove the throat plate from the 4423 so I can get a better view of the bobbin case area. There, the screws are removed. And here's the plate, and I can see quite clearly how the bobbin is seated in there. There's a part here that lets it differentiate. I can see there's the angle that I'm going to need. It's almost kind of a lateral or horizontal aspect there. So good enough. I'm going to replace the plate, Well, while I have it off, let me rotate it and see how the hook is circulating. So that is good. Well, at least I have these. I've got the 44S to my right, and I also have the 4423 here that I can use to sew. The 4423 I purchased with the serger that I bought last September from that nice lady that was moving to London, England. And this 4423 is, right now it would be coming on 5 years old, because the lady that I bought the sewing equipment from, she had been in Canada temporarily, but she got stranded here by COVID-19, because the world shut down in March of 2020, and she settled down, and she actually ended up getting a job, and she was in the finance industry, and she actually ended up getting a job with one of the 5 big Canadian banks here in Montreal. So she had worked for them for 4 years, and then once she was ready, she moved to London, England. So that's how I came about getting this 4423. So even though it is used, like I say, it's 5 years old, or just under 5 years old. And it was one owner. It works fine. It doesn't make that knocking sound like the 4432 is doing. So I'm going to have to check and see how I position the bobbin case in the 4432, see if that's an issue. There's a little more light there. Let me get my flashlight. So I need to loosen this a little more to get that to seat correctly, because it's not seated correctly. Let me take it right out for now, and I'll plug the machine in and we'll listen to the sound it makes. Okay, I've got it plugged in. Let's see what kind of noise it makes. You know what, it's turning nice and smooth now. So I'm starting to suspect that I didn't have the bobbin case / bobbin installed correctly. Here we go. I'll put some electricity to it. Well, that's a lot quieter. Okay, I'm pleased with that, because it's not a mechanical issue, it's probably a bobbin positioning issue. So I'm going to loosen these screws more, and then I'll put the bobbin case in, and then we'll try it again, see if we can get it to go nice and smooth and no knocking, just like we heard right now. I'm pleased with this little test we just did. There, I've got it installed and it has seated correctly. So even though I haven't tightened those screws, I'll just circulate the hook and the bobbin there. Okay, I'm going to have to tighten those screws. That one's snug. How's this one doing? So it's snug as well. And that one's snug. So that's really nice. That's stable and solid. It's not vibrating or clicking or anything. and that is good too. So I'm going to get the needle, install the needle, and see if it will do a proper, correct rotation as it should be. Okay. I've got the needle in there, and I believe it's seated correctly. So I'm going to slowly rotate it. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. There's no clicking, there's no banging. It's smooth and fluid. So I think that probably was my faux pas or error, was that I didn't have that seated at the correct position. But now that it is lined up that way, there's where I'm going to put the thread through when I put the bobbin in. There's the angled slot, the diagonal slot. So everything's correct there. Let me try it again with some energy. That's a lot better. The banging sound, the clicking sound is gone, and it's a lot quieter. So I'm very, very happy with how it's back to the way it should be. It is working as intended correctly. So now I'll put the plate back in position. There, that's snug. And now that one is snug as well. I'll give it another little whirl here, since I'm so happy with it working correctly. Absolutely, that sounds a lot better. I'm really happy about this. It got oiled and greased. I cleaned some fluff out of it, and now it's working as intended. So I can go ahead and put in a bobbin and thread it and all that good stuff. Now the needle I have in here is a 16 denim needle, and it's been in there for a while. So I'm going to replace that needle with a new needle. And what I'm going to do with this old needle is I'm going to get a piece of tape, this green painter's tape or whatever, and get rid of it that way. I've covered the tape over the point of the needle, and I'll dispose of it downstairs in the recycling area. Here I'm going to get a new needle. These are, as you can see, it says Schmetz Jeans 130/705 HJ 100/16. So, and then I can just slide the plastic cover down and then push that bit of plastic back. And get a needle out. Well, I seem to be having a little bit of an issue here. There we go. So there's my new needle. And I can put that back in the parts container there. Of course, the flat edge goes towards the what we'll call the back of the machine. like that. I believe that is seated in there correctly. And I'll just hand bomb that. They're smooth as silk. Let me try it with the foot pedal. Indeed, I'm happy with that. Now I can replace the foot. Let me get that all the way up there like that. There, the foot has been picked up by the pressure bar. And now I can get a bobbin. What colors have I got here? Well, I've got orange and black, and the black is and white, but the black is nice and full. So I'll thread the bobbin in the case with the black. And as we know, it goes on or in counterclockwise, right? Coming off the top towards the left. I'll get that down right in there like that. And then I've got to get the thread to come over to this diagonal slot. Let me get my magnifying glass. Yes, indeed. Oh, what did I do? I dropped that old needle. There. So that went in, and then that'll be ready once I get the top threaded, which I'm going to do right now. And what do I got here? I've got Gutermann 100% cotton, 250 meters, 274 yards. So that's what I'll use. I do have the thread tower over there, but I'm not going to use it right now. I'm going to do it this way because I haven't done it this way for a while. I've been using the thread tower, which is really convenient, but I'm going to thread it now. So the first place it's got to go through is that guide there. I heard it click in, now it goes in here. Then we go all the way down the front and then loop back up and then pull it through the take-up lever. I heard it click in, and now I take it down and it should be safely between the discs. And then I have a guide here, a horizontal guide here, and a horizontal guide there, and then into the needle. There's the first horizontal. There's the second one, and now it's going to be into the needle. Now the way I do this is there's a groove on the front of this needle in the middle. So I try to line the thread up on that, and I think I've actually threaded it. Indeed I have. So now I can lift up the foot and I can send the upper thread down to catch the bobbin thread. There, I can see the black thread right there, the bobbin thread right there. So I'll pull it up. There, now we're threaded. I want that under the foot, like that. And then I can replace the cover. So there we go. I have, in this video, I started by taking the bottom cover, the side cover, the top cover off, and oiling and greasing at all the applicable points that that I searched for and found, and also cleaned some fluff out of the bobbin and underneath the bobbin and down below inside when I had this bottom cover off, because there's this cover, then the bottom cover there, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4 covers altogether that I removed and then replaced. So that's how it all ended up. I'll close off again. I already made a end of video clip, but this is my new end of video clip. I'm glad that I was able to calmly, without frustration, do what I needed to do to clean it and maintain it by oiling it and greasing it. And then when I had the issue with not seating the bobbin case correctly in the bobbin area, we remedied that as well. So I'm quite happy. Why am I happy? One of the reasons I'm happy is because these are new machines to me. I'm used to, like, you know, the vintage 400 series, 500 series, 201s, 301s, that kind of thing. Those old machines from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And like I said, this machine was is only about maybe 11 months old at the most right now. I bought it early September 24, and it's now middle of July 25. So definitely 10 months, 11 months coming up on it. And I really like these machines. I will also be doing an oiling and cleaning and greasing on the 4423. So don't be surprised if in the next few videos you see a video about that. And I will do that, and I will film it, because you know, one of the reasons that I make these videos is because I get to film video how I did it. So it's always a good reference, you know, when I go to put it back, and if something doesn't work out right, I think it should, like happened in this case, then I have a video that I can go and look at what I did exactly and see how it all played out. Anyway, I would be remiss if I didn't do at least a little bit of a sewing test here after doing all that good work. So let's get set up for that. I've got the foot down. I'm holding the threads. Good enough. There's the top thread from the upper tension, and there's the black bobbin thread from the bobbin tension. Nice, even, tight stitches. Good job. Make sure you have fun. That's very important, to have fun. Stay safe. Keep on coming back. I want to thank you. I really do love you folks, all of you. Enjoy your machines and your projects, and come back real soon. Please subscribe and like. It helps the channel, helps me, and I appreciate the support. And for now, I'll say adios, amigos.